Hey everyone, it's Rebecca here. Thanks for joining me for another Sims 4 speed build. In today's video, I am getting a little bit nostalgic because I am building something that's really close to my heart. You might already know from the title, I'm building an Icelandic city home, and I'm actually from Iceland. I haven't lived there in a really long time. I moved away when I was a kid, but I've been back a number of times, and this build is kind of a mix of different homes that I saw growing up and a little bit of inspiration from my own home growing up. And yeah, it's just a big nostalgia dive for me. So we'll talk a little bit about the elements that I'm pulling from my experiences and my memories, and yeah. So this home is an apartment, or rather it's a building with 2 units. So there is a ground floor apartment, which is kind of supposed to be a basement style apartment. I didn't want to go for a split level in this build, so I'm insinuating that there is a basement, and we'll do that with landscaping and the window placement. And then on the main floor, there is a 4-bedroom apartment that is over 2 levels. So that includes the attic space of this home. And the bottom floor is going to be unfurnished, and the main floor apartment is going to be fully furnished. And that is going to be for a family of around 5, I think. And then the ground floor has 2 bedrooms. And yeah, so this is, I think, a pretty typical shape that you would see in Iceland. And I really love this type of home. Like I said, for me, this is super nostalgic, but I also I don't know, I really like this simple style and shape of home. And I also really love the architecture that you can see in Iceland. The concrete homes that are in the city in particular are something that I really genuinely love, and I think is probably part of the root of what I love about building homes is seeing the cozy homes and different house styles that you see in Iceland. So when I think about houses that I love, or a typical house shape, I often think of this particular shape that inspired this home. So yeah, I'm definitely a fan of it. The furnishings for the main home are also really inspired by a lot of the things that I saw growing up. And I would say for me, when I think of Scandinavia, the style for furnishing is, for me, for my experience, kind of like a mix of vintage and what I would call IKEA modern. And I really did grow up with IKEA. That was a standard for me growing up. And I am a little bit older, so if you are a youth, growing up with IKEA might be really standard for you, especially if you are an American viewer. But IKEA wasn't as much of a thing when I came to the US as a kid. But for me, that was something that was really normal growing up. And I think for a lot of people, it is now a regular part of their lives as IKEA has, expanded its, identity into so many different parts of the world. But for me, it definitely feels uniquely Scandinavian. And I always think of it in addition to really vintage decor. So doilies, I feel are really typical Scandinavian. I grew up seeing a lot of lace work, whether that's in tablecloths or covers that we have for shelves and things like that. So I always think of that mixed in with the slightly more contemporary, modern IKEA look. So that's the furnishing style that I went for in the main apartment. And like I said, the ground floor, that is unfurnished, and doesn't really take as much inspiration from that. But yeah, I really like putting down the bright tiles in the kitchen. I went for a red tile. Something about red kitchens feels really European to me. And that's partly inspired by things that I saw growing up, but also just from media. So I really love having like a red kitchen, and I do warm it up a little bit. I originally went for these white cabinets, but I do go for the wood tone in just a little bit, just so it isn't like such a stark white apartment. And I did want it to be a little bit warmer. But yeah, I think this kitchen is fairly large. I did add the dining outside in the main living area. I have a lot of memories of like eating in the kitchen. So I have a lot of memories of kitchens that have like a breakfast nook area. And even if a home would have like a formal dining area, those weren't really used as much in my experience. So that's something that I was pulling from, but I didn't really have the room for it in that particular kitchen. But in the ground floor unit, that's definitely the idea. I wanted there to be room in that kitchen to add like a table with 2 or 3 chairs so that you could do like a breakfast nook in there. So, but yeah, the windows that I'm using are from Snowy Escape. They're a bit big for what I wanted. The idea that I had while I was working on this home was that this was originally, you know, a house that was then changed into 2 units, and that they updated the windows at some point. So there is a mix of like traditional windows and modern windows in this house. And I also changed it so that the entryway, the indoor entry, is a little bit more modern. Like that would have been, you know, remodeled in like the 80s or the 90s or something like that. But I wish that the windows that we had, like the plain modern windows, were maybe just like, they're either too small or too big for what I was looking for. So I tried to combine some of them. Like here I'm using the tiny windows that we got from Businesses and Hobbies to create like a slightly larger window in the bathroom and the kitchen. But the ones in the living area and the 2 bedrooms on the main floor, they're kind of large. But I couldn't really find the exact windows I was looking for. I also really love the windows that we got from Life and Death. I did use some of them on the side of the building, so you'll see that a little bit later on in the video. And the shape of the panes of the window are perfect for what I was looking for. But unfortunately, they just don't have another window that is wide. They only have windows that are literally bigger, both in length and width. And I needed something that was like the same height, but a little bit wider. And they didn't have that, so I just decided to go for like the big modern windows that were added, you know, in a renovation at some point. Or maybe this house was originally built that way. And yeah, but another element that I really wanted to add in this build was the corner windows, because something else that I really love, and like in my dream home, this is something that I would love to have, is like a true corner window where the 2 windows meet in the corner. And in this particular build, I decided to put a like an angled wall as well. So that's a feature that we have in both units that I really like. And another little element that I wanted to add that is unique to Scandinavian, I think maybe even unique to Iceland. I'm not sure about the rest of the Scandinavian countries, but in the winter for Christmas, we definitely have a Christmas tree. We have slightly different Christmas traditions than North America, but one thing that is really unique is that we do have a menorah. And so I always grew up seeing menorahs in the window, even though Iceland is a Lutheran country. We do light the candles moving up to Christmas Eve to, celebrate the days leading up to Christmas. So I was originally going to use the menorah that we got from Seasons, but it was a little bit too small. I wanted something that was a little bit bigger, so I just went for a 3 candlestick. So it's not exactly the same, but you can't scale up candles in the game, unfortunately, because the flame always stays in one place. So I decided just to use the get-together candelabra instead of the in-game menorahs that we have from both the Seasons and the holiday additional content that we got many years ago. But this home is slightly decorated for Christmas. I didn't want to go full out, so I just have a couple of elements in the windows. And that's the other thing that I really love and was trying to capture in this build, is that in Iceland, especially in the city, but I think you'll see this all over the country, is that we have very personalized windowsills. And a lot of the windows do have like full windowsills where you can place things. And oftentimes the curtain will go, over the windowsill. So when the curtains are closed, you can still see the items that are on the windowsill. And if you walk around the city in Reykjavik, for example, you can see everybody's items that they place on the windowsill, and you get a little taste of what their personality is, or maybe like a little hint of what their family is about or something like that. That's something that I really love. It's so nice to see like life. You can tell that like somebody's living there, and they, maybe like these colors, or they've got like trinkets or items from their family that are in the windowsill. I find that so charming. And so I placed shelves and like, tables close to the windows in the furnished unit. And I placed items there that you can then see from the street. And because of the way glass works in The Sims, it's super reflective, so you can't really see it all that well. I tried to take screenshots that kind of like captured that effect. It's a little bit better at night, but not really, because the reflection of like the ambient light from like the moonlight, for example, is still really strong in this game. So it was a little bit hard for me to capture, but the idea is there. I also did the same with the plants here that I've got in this particularly sunlit area. I thought it'd be nice to have like a little corner where they're growing their plants indoors and they've got tons of natural sunlight. And maybe this is where it captures like the few hours of sunlight that you would have in the winter, because Iceland does have extreme sunlight changes from winter to summer. So you might have heard that Iceland is called the land of the midnight sun. In the middle of the summer, we do have, a full day of sunlight. The sun will like sit on the horizon and not fully set, and it's super bright. And then in the winter, in the darkest days of the winter, you'll only get a couple of hours of real daylight. And it's really depressing. I've often thought about whether I want to move back to Iceland or live in like northern Scandinavia, and my biggest reservation is definitely the dark winters. I'm not used to it anymore. It's been a really long time since I experienced that in real time, and I think I'd really struggle with it. I love the sun, and so the summers would be fantastic, but I think the winters would be really, really hard. But yeah, that's why it's so lovely to see the light coming through. I feel like when I was furnishing this and I was doing like the radiators and putting the corner windows, when the sunlight was coming through and hitting like these light timber floors, there were so many moments while building this that I was like, wow, this is so extremely realistic and nostalgic for me. So I don't know if it's clear to you watching if you aren't, familiar with this style. But for me, I think I'm really happy with the result. I think I really captured what I was going for. This bathroom here on the ground floor, I like that it kind of mixed and matched the colors. I really love it. It's really colorful. I love the blue tiles in this game, and my dream bathroom has like rich blue tile. So I'm living vicariously through this build by adding these really saturated tiles. And then originally I was going to go for this kind of green kitchen, but I do dull it down a little bit. Looking at it now, I really like it though. The blue tiles and that kind of mossy green cabinetry with the orange backsplash. I think that would have looked really good, but yeah, I did tone it down a bit. And then this apartment is a little bit more beat up, so it's not as well maintained. So I do have some scuff marks around the place, which you can definitely get rid of if you don't want it. And then there are really subtle things on the floor. I used some of the decals from the Basement Treasures kit, but they're super subtle. I put them down and then I kept losing my place. I couldn't find where I'd put them down, so those are a little bit harder to spot, but yeah, you can definitely get rid of them very easily if you want to clean up the place. And yeah, but it's a nicely sized apartment, and you could definitely fit, 4 Sims, like parents and 2 kids in there. The kids, I think, realistically will share a room. I think one of the least realistic things about the main unit here is the size of the bedrooms for the kids. They feel huge, and it's not like people don't have full-size rooms by themselves. But I feel like because I grew up sharing a room with my brother, and I feel like I knew a lot of people who shared rooms with their siblings, that just feels a little bit more realistic to me. But in The Sims, I think it makes sense to have a little bit more room to move around. But yeah, and so this is the parents' room. It's basic, but I think it's really cute. And I love that we got all this like very Scandinavian, obviously, furniture from the Businesses and Hobbies pack. I also liked adding this yellow chair from Dream Home Decorator. That very much feels like the IKEA chair, if you know. It's really cozy. I have a friend who has that chair like in that yellowish color, and it's really cute, but I feel like I see it everywhere now, not surprisingly. And I decided that maybe one of the parents is an artist, so I originally made this little nook in their room, which is in the attic, but then I moved it over to the landing instead because I had like a study area for the kids, but then all the kids ended up having like their own desks in their own room, so I didn't really need the study area up there, so I thought that would be a good place for some art making. And then I just turned the nook into like a little seating area for the parents. So it's a pretty large room. I do wish that we could have like the slanted ceilings from the roof. That's something that would be really cool. You can definitely create that look with custom content, but you can't really do it in The Sims. But hopefully the implication is there. You can see the roof on the side. And this room here, this is the other room that's in the attic, and I thought this might be for like a kid that is like a young adult, that still lives at home, which would be super normal in Iceland. But I realized while I was editing this video that I didn't really decorate it all that well. So I did make it for like a sim that is into music, but then I left so many of the shelving areas like completely blank. Like I didn't put any decorations on it. So there's a lot of room for interpretation. I did put stuff on the walls, but yeah, the computer desk, there's nothing on the side. The little shelf behind the bed, there's nothing on there either. I completely forgot about it. And I already went back so many times to like update and fix this home after playtesting that I decided not to go back and add anything. So the tray files, which will be available, linked in the description. There won't be any decorations, but this home will look slightly different on the outside because I did do some renovations off camera just to fix the roof, and I changed the siding as well. I still kept the concrete, but I just changed the colors a little bit. But yeah, so feel free to decorate it a little bit more if you want to. And of course, feel free to renovate this fully. If you do, I would love to see it. Feel free to tag me on Tumblr. I've got the same username over there. And then this won't be up on the gallery immediately because I'm currently playing offline. I'm waiting for Better BuildBuy to be updated before I play online. So this will be available. Like I said, the tray files will be available for download immediately, but this won't be on the gallery for a little bit. So if you want to download it from the gallery, just be a little bit patient. Once Better BuildBuy is updated, then I will update my game and get this onto the gallery. But yeah, I think that's more or less everything I have to say about the theme of the build and the family that lives here. Like I said, I think there's 2 younger kids, a young adult child, and 2 parents. I do have a washing machine here in the kitchen, and I do wish that there was like a European laundry version of the laundry machines from the laundry pack, but I doubt we're going to be getting that functionality in any other pack. But if you have custom content available to you, if you're playing on PC, there are custom content washing machines that are like a European laundry where you can have the countertop on top of it. So that was the implication that I have there. I also put the dryer in the upstairs bathroom because there's no like small drying rack. So that's the reason that I have the dryer in there in a separate bedroom. But we are finishing off the build with some landscaping. And yeah, I just want to say thank you so much I reached 100 subscribers a little bit ago. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks to everybody who's been hitting like or leaving comments. It's so wonderful. And for everyone that's subscribed, I super appreciate you. Thanks for sticking with me, even with my rant in my latest video. That might have been a little bit strong for some people. But just know that I will continue to be putting out Sims content on this channel. You might see some other games on here, but my main focus will continue to be The Sims. I also have another Scandinavian build that I've already finished that I just need to edit. So that will be coming out pretty soon. This might be a month of nostalgia as we get into the winter. I definitely feel more nostalgic for home, and it really makes me want to just like build in Nordhaven and yeah, pay a little bit more homage to where I'm from. So that'll be it. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will talk to you all again in my next video. Bye-bye.